My name is Haley Thompson. I turned 60 this year. I live alone in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside Chicago. My husband George passed away 5 years ago, and since then, I've been spending peaceful days in this big house. My daughter Mary is 35. She has a kind personality like me, but she's much prettier. Her brown curly hair and big blue eyes always charm those around her. Mary's husband Jacob is 37 and works as an IT consultant. When I first met him, I thought he was a dependable person, tall and handsome. And then there's my precious grandson Jack. Now 8 years old, he inherited Mary's eyes and Jacob's stocky build. I love his curiosity and how he's always eager to learn new things. 2 years ago, when I heard they were moving to Europe for Jacob's work, I was honestly heartbroken. But wanting the family to be happy, I sent them off with a smile. "You'll have wonderful experiences in the new environment," I said, while inside I was filled with loneliness. These days, my routine is busy with part-time work and volunteering at the local community center. I work 3 days a week at the Maple Grove bookstore, organizing books and helping customers. It's a small store, but I enjoy chatting with the regulars as part of my daily routine. On Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, I volunteer as a computer class instructor for seniors at the Willow Creek Community Center. Having been interested in computers since I was young, it's a fun challenge to introduce the digital world to people my age. Every time someone says, "Haley, thanks to you I can now talk to my grandchildren on Facebook," it warms my heart. On holidays, I tend to a small vegetable garden in the backyard. I grow tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, and other vegetables, enjoying the pleasure of harvesting them. Sometimes, sharing extra vegetables with neighbors is one of my joys. This is how I spend my days, but time with family is still my greatest happiness. I video chat with Jack once a week. Every time I see his smile, I long to see him even more. But out of a desire to support their new life, I try to hide my loneliness. Today, another busy day is about to begin. After finishing my morning routine, I headed to the mailbox and noticed a package with unfamiliar foreign stamps. The sender's name was written in Jack's childish handwriting. I couldn't help but smile. Oh my, a present from Jack. My heart warmed. With only a week until Thanksgiving Day, I'm sure they're busy preparing for the holiday over there, but the thought that he remembered me brought tears to my eyes. I carefully picked up the package and sat on the living room sofa. Suppressing the urge to open it right away, I decided to call Jack first. Considering the time difference, it should be dinner time there. Although it's not our usual weekend video call time, I decided to call, thinking it was a special day. As the phone rang, my heart started beating a little faster. What if I'm interrupting them at a busy time? The thought crossed my mind. "Hello, Grandma." Jack's voice came through. "Jack, how are you? Grandma received a lovely present today." "Oh, it arrived. That's good. Did you open it?" Jack's voice lacked its usual energy. It sounded a bit dark, almost tense. "Not yet." "Jack, want to tell me what kind of present it is?" Yes. I made it to show how thankful I am for you, Grandma." open it and be surprised. There was something off about Jack's words. Usually, he'd be more excited talking about this. But now, it's as if he's speaking in a low voice, trying not to be overheard. Jack, did something happen? I couldn't help but ask. And no. Nothing happened. I'm just tired. His words increased my worry. Jack's tone and way of speaking seemed different from usual. But I decided not to push further. Maybe he's just having trouble adjusting to the new environment. I see. Jack, remember, Grandma is always on your side. If anything happens, you can always talk to me. Yes, thanks, Grandma. After hanging up, I sat on the sofa for a while, replaying the conversation with Jack in my mind. Something felt off, but I couldn't put it into words. Looking at the package in front of me, I suddenly felt afraid to open it. Was it because of Jack's strange behavior? Or was I just overthinking things? Taking a deep breath, I reassured myself. It's okay, I'm sure it's a lovely present. I reached out and slowly began to unwrap the package. My fingertips were trembling slightly. With mixed feelings of expectation and anxiety, I faced Jack's present. Before looking at the contents, I took another deep breath. Now, what could be inside? Carefully opening the wrapping paper, a handmade card and a small picture book appeared. The card read, "Thank you always, Grandma," in Jack's clumsy handwriting. I couldn't help but smile. Opening the card, I saw a drawing of Jack's family. But something felt off. The expressions of Mary, Jacob, and Jack all seemed somewhat dark. Surely it's just my imagination, I told myself. Turning the card over, I noticed something written in small letters. Squinting, the words "Help Me" emerged. My heart started racing. Next, I picked up the picture book. It seemed to be an original story made by Jack, titled "The Brave Little Boy." As I turned the pages, I saw illustrations of the protagonist boy facing various difficulties. When I opened the center page, a photograph slipped out. With trembling hands, I carefully spread out the contents of the present. Slowly checking each page of the picture book, Jack's drawings seemed to depict ordinary family life at first glance. But looking closer, there were ominous shadows lurking here and there. For example, in the family dinner scene, there was a small drawing of Jack hugging his knees and trembling under the table. In the Park Place scene, thin blue lines were drawn on Jack's arms. Each time I noticed these details, my chest felt tighter. And when I saw the photograph that had fallen to the floor, I couldn't help but let out a loud scream. It showed Jack covered in bruises. Oh my God! Jack! I cried out, dropping the photo. My hands were shaking, and my breathing became ragged. I couldn't believe this was really happening. But the evidence in front of me was clear. My precious grandson was being abused. Why didn't I notice? Feelings of self-blame welled up inside me. Should I have observed Jack more carefully during our weekly video calls? Thinking about it, tears suddenly started flowing. With my head full of confusion and fear, I quickly came to my senses. Jack. I need to help him, I said, grabbing my smartphone with trembling hands. When I pressed the video call button, Jack answered immediately. Seeing Jack's face on the screen, I gasped again. There was a large blue bruise around his left eye, and his lips were slightly swollen. Jack, what happened? My voice was shaking. Jack looked around cautiously and started speaking in a low voice. Grandma, help me. I can't take it anymore. What do you mean? Who did this to you? Dad. Jack answered tearfully. Dad is, to me and Mom. But I couldn't tell anyone. Dad would get angry. Anger and sadness swirled inside me. Why didn't you say anything until now? Dad is always watching. Phone calls, video chats. That's why I hid it in the present. Jack's voice was trembling. I understand, Jack. Grandma will do something about this. I tried desperately to keep calm. Just then, I heard the sound of a door opening. Jack's face contorted with fear. Jack. Who are you talking to? Jacob's voice could be heard. And no one. Jack's voice was shaking. Jacob's figure appeared on the screen, and I held my breath. His eyes were filled with anger. You again. Jacob's voice rumbled low. Jacob. I cried out involuntarily. What are you doing? Jacob looked at the screen in surprise. Then suddenly, the call was cut off. I stared blankly at the blackened screen. My heart was pounding fiercely, and my mind was in chaos. But there was one thing that was clear. I had to save Jack and Mary. What on earth is going on? I muttered. In the beginning of their marriage, Jacob was a kind and caring person. He cherished Mary and cried tears of joy when Jack was born. When did he turn into such a violent person? Various possibilities raced through my mind. Work stress. Financial problems. Or issues with alcohol or drugs. The more I thought about it, the more anxious I became. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. This is no time to panic. I need to act calmly and quickly. Should I contact the local police first? Or directly contact the police in Europe? No, I need to secure evidence before that. I picked up the fallen photograph again. Then, I carefully gathered the card and picture book. These would be the key to saving Jack. First, I decided to consult with someone I could trust. Sarah, my longtime friend and retired lawyer, should be able to give me proper advice. She should be familiar with international legal issues. While calling Sarah, I was thinking about Jack again. His brave action revealed this situation. How much fear did he have to fight against in his small body to send this SOS? Wait for me, Jack, I whispered softly. Grandma will definitely come to help you. And I stood up to take the next action. It's a race against time. I must save my precious family as soon as possible. After hanging up the phone with Sarah, I took a deep breath to calm my heart. Thanks to my friend's accurate advice, what I should do next became clear. First, I headed to the local police station. Entering the old building of the Oak Grove Police Department, I felt my stomach tighten with tension. After briefly explaining the situation at the reception, a middle-aged officer named Detective Johnson immediately responded. "Mrs. Thompson, please calm down and explain the situation slowly." Encouraged by Detective Johnson's calm voice, I handed over Jack's letter and photos with trembling hands. He checked the evidence with a serious expression and immediately took action. "Since this is an international case, we'll contact Interpol first." Hearing those words, I felt a little relieved. Detective Johnson talked on the phone for a long time, occasionally asking me questions for confirmation. After about an hour, he finally hung up. "Mrs. Thompson, Interpol will take action. They'll also contact the local police." I let out a sigh of relief at those words. However, I still can't relax completely. "But Jack and the others are still in a dangerous situation," I pleaded. Detective Johnson nodded understandingly and said, "Let's contact the local child protection services as well," before picking up the phone again. I sat on a plastic chair in the police station, trying to suppress my restless feelings. As the clock hands slowly moved forward, I continued to pray for Jack and the others' safety. Suddenly, my smartphone vibrated. It was a message from Jack. "Grandma, I'm scared. Dad is angry again." I immediately showed the screen to Detective Johnson. He promptly started contacting Interpol again. Meanwhile, I replied to Jack. "It's okay, Jack. Help is coming. In case of emergency, call 112. There was no reply from Jack, but the message was marked as read. About 30 minutes passed. Detective Johnson's phone rang, and he continued the conversation with a serious expression. After hanging up, he turned to me. "Mrs. Thompson, the local police have moved. They're heading to your daughter and grandson's house now." My heart was beating violently. Are Jack and the others safe? Or... Another 20 minutes passed, and the phone rang again. After hanging up, Detective Johnson smiled at me. "Good news. Mary and Jack have been safely protected. Jacob has been arrested and is being questioned." The moment I heard those words, tears flooded from my eyes. Relief and joy washed over me, and I cried out loud. Detective Johnson gently placed his hand on my shoulder and said, "You did well. Your courage saved your family." That night, I was able to video chat with Mary and Jack. They both looked tired, but knowing they were in a safe place calmed my heart a little. "Thank you, Mom. You saved us," Mary said tearfully. Jack also said in a small voice, "Thank you, Grandma." I was filled with the desire to hug them through the screen. "It's okay. You're safe now. I'll protect you firmly from now on." That night, I couldn't sleep for a long time. I still have endless worries about what will happen from now on. But we've escaped the worst situation. From tomorrow, I must start preparing to welcome Mary and the others to America. I took a deep breath and gradually fell asleep, holding hope for tomorrow in my heart. On the day Mary and Jack were to return to the States, I headed to O'Hare International Airport early in the morning. While waiting in the arrival lobby, I could feel my heart pounding. Finally, I would see my beloved family. It was a complex emotional state, mixing joy with anxiety about the future. When the arrival board displayed their flight's arrival, my heart started beating even faster. And then, among the people coming out of the gate, I finally saw Mary and Jack. "Mom!" The moment I heard Mary's voice, I ran towards them, tears flowing freely. "Mary! Jack!" I hugged them tightly. Jack clung to me with his small body, while Mary was shaking with sobs. "I'm sorry, Mom. I should have asked for help sooner." Mary's voice was trembling. "It's okay, Mary. You're safe now," I gently rubbed her back. In the car on the way home from the airport, Mary began to talk about Jacob's transformation. It started with work stress, then he gradually became dependent on alcohol. After the overseas assignment, his violence escalated due to feelings of isolation. He said it was to protect us, but that was just an excuse, Mary said quietly. When we arrived home, the neighbors warmly welcomed us. Mrs. Wilson brought a homemade apple pie, and Mr. Johnson gave Jack some children's books. The warmth of this community touched my heart deeply. That night, the three of us sat on the living room sofa and talked for a long time. Jack gradually started to smile, and Mary's expression began to show signs of relief. The following week, the local church group offered their support. They helped with various aspects, such as introducing counseling services and supporting Jack's school enrollment. "Everyone is so kind," Mary said, tearing up. "Yes, you're not alone, Mary," I squeezed her hand. Jacob's trial began 3 months later. As the evidence came to light, the severity of his crimes became clear. Eventually, Jacob received a long prison sentence. After the verdict, Mary turned to me and said, "Mom, I can't forgive Jacob, but I've stopped hating him." I hugged her and encouraged her, "You're strong, Mary. Let's look forward and live on." As time passed, our lives gradually stabilized. Jack began to fit in at his new school, and Mary started working at a local company. One day during dinner, Jack suddenly said, "Grandma, I'm happy." At those words, Mary and I looked at each other and smiled. "I'm happy too, Jack," Mary gently stroked her son's head. "That's right. We're together. We'll continue to be happy," I said, looking at both of them. At night, alone, I gazed at the full moon visible from the window and reflected on our journey. Having overcome this painful experience, our family has become stronger. And this experience has taught us the importance of family bonds and the courage to take action. From tomorrow, surely various difficulties await us. But we no longer need to be afraid. We have hearts that care for each other and the courage to overcome. George, watch over us. We'll be all right, I spoke to my late husband, looking up at the sky. And with new hope in my heart, I quietly closed my eyes. Tomorrow is the start of another new day. It's the beginning of a new life for our family. 5 years have passed since then. Jack is now an energetic 13-year-old boy, excelling in school. Every time I see his smile, my heart swells with emotion. Mary has started working at a local nonprofit organization, dedicating herself to supporting domestic violence victims. Her strength and kindness have become a pillar of support for many people. Mom, if my experience can help someone, Mary often says. There's no longer a shadow of fear in her eyes. The time we three spend together is an irreplaceable treasure. On weekends, we cook together or enjoy picnics in the park. Through these days, our bond has deepened even further. Jacob is still in prison. We occasionally receive letters from him, but Mary doesn't seem ready to write back yet. Still, she says, someday, for Jack's sake too, I want to reconcile. I quietly watch over her decision. The support from our community has been a great strength. Mrs. Wilson still bakes apple pies for us sometimes, and the church group regularly invites us for dinner. In this warm environment, we are healing slowly but surely. The other day, Jack won first prize in a school essay contest. The theme was, My Hero. He wrote about me. Grandma is my lifesaver, Jack said shyly. Those words brought tears to my eyes. Life often has unexpected trials waiting for us. But I believe that if we walk together with our loved ones, we can overcome any difficulty. Now, the sunset visible from the window is shining beautifully. With each new morning, I feel our future is becoming brighter and brighter. We will continue to protect, love, and support each other. That is the foundation of our happy life.